James, we live in a society where we come into this us and them mentality. If you don't believe how I believe, if you don't see through the lens that I see, then you're obviously against us. You're against me. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, one of the things I learned through my coaching experience at Orange Rose Services was focus on myself. Mm-hmm. Going through tremendous amount of, there were a lot of opportunities to blame them.
Right.
But one of the things that I learned so much in Orange Rose Services and through the coaching, focus on myself. It's easy to blame circumstances, as we always talked about, live above your circumstance. Mm-hmm. It's easy to blame circumstances, and it's always easy to look at them. And we talked a lot about, in psychology, when we're going through hard times or we're not willing to look at ourselves, we project our own insecurities on other people.
That would be a true statement.
So in a lot of times in groups, it always is good to have them, right? So you don't have to focus on yourself. At least I'm not them.
Well, that's how you can unite. That's how we can come together in a group. If I want to fit into a group, then I have to have an enemy. Them is an enemy. Them is a bad person. So that we have something to talk about. We can talk about them and how bad them is. But if I know who I am, I'm not going to spend time fitting into a group where we talk about them in order to fit. I'm going to look for the people who, when we get together, we talk about ideas. We talk about real issues. We talk about ideas and how we can change the world for the better versus talk about them.
Well, them keeps us from being able to do that.
With we're in that mindset. Exactly.
Them.
And that's why we want to, because we don't want to look at us. We don't want to look at who we are. Where, I really been thinking about this, and it's really true. And I would always say that we create our destiny.
Yes.
And we do by the choices we make. And I think we also talked about it in one of the podcasts about our thinking patterns. We are where we are today because we choose to be here. With or without your permission, you are where you're at because you chose to be there. Yeah. And so because of that, we have an us and them mentality that, again, we are full of our own insecurities, as you talked about, projecting our insecurities onto others. We are full of our own insecurities. We are full of our own shame. We are not feeling fulfilled within our own selves. So we have to look at them. And we have to talk about them to somehow make us feel like we have accomplished more than what we did. Mm-hmm. Instead of really looking at us and saying, why am I here? 3 questions. What is here? Mm-hmm. Why am I here? And where am I moving from here? Mm-hmm. That is really what is going to move us forward. But exactly what you said, them has got us stuck here. No, they didn't.
Yeah, I was on Facebook today and looking at a particular post, and somebody was going against a religion and saying how it is wrong. And again, it's religion. Okay, what I mean by that is it's a way of belief. So it's easy to sit in my high horse and say how bad that religion is. At the end of the day, you don't have to choose that religion. Or we can say how bad the Democrats are or Republicans. The greatest thing, and that's why we say we're polarized. We're not. The greatest thing that we have an opportunity in a country is to choose your religion.
James, I'm glad you brought that up because I have been thinking on the same thing. All right, I was raised in a religious culture, mm-hmm. and I chose to leave the religious culture.
Yes.
There are more people that have that were living in the very same religious culture that I came from, and they also left. But they keep on slandering them. They keep on throwing back. Here's why. Because you don't know who you are. When you are in a religious, from my experience, when you are in a religious culture, that religious culture is everything about you. Your identity, your spirituality, your family, your friends. It's a small world that you are in, and it defines every part of you. When you leave, when you make that choice to leave, you are leaving all that behind you. There's a part that comes with that is a guilt. There's a guilt that comes with that I am leaving, I am forsaking my mother and my father. I'm forsaking my siblings. I'm forsaking the very belief that was instilled into me. I am forsaking all that. And so I'm doomed. There's that guilt, okay? As long as I hold on to that guilt, I'm going to continue to slander that religious group. I'm going to continue to say how wrong they are. I'm going to continue to justify myself. Why am I justifying myself? Because I left, and therefore I saw the light. So I'm going to point out everything that's wrong with them. Here's the thing. They don't care. They don't care. They're going to continue to do what they've been doing until they make choices to leave. You can't influence their choices by constantly bickering at them, by constantly slandering them, by constantly belittling them and saying how wrong they are and look at how right I am. When I have to make myself right to make them wrong, I'm not in the right. I'm not. So I have to look at myself. Why am I feeling guilty? Why am I feeling guilty? Because again, everything about that religious culture held everything about me. And I'm leaving all that behind. So a part of me is dying. But why I'm feeling guilty and why I'm sitting there and slandering them is because I'm not going anywhere. I'm not moving forward. Mm-hmm. They still hold all my identity, my family, everything. And so I'm waiting for them to release me so that I can move forward. That's not going to happen. That's because them don't care. That's not going to happen. Only I can break myself free. Only I can release myself to move forward. And it really comes by going inside and saying, what is here? How did I get here? And how am I moving forward? In order to define what is here, I have to find out who I am. I have to truly find out who I am. And to find out who I am, I really have to look at everything. The ugly, the good, the bad, the ugly, the awful stuff. I have to bring it all to the forefront and truly look at that. And then I have to say, is this me? Is this, so from the religious culture that I came from, was that who I truly am? Is that who I truly am? No. Why did I leave? Because within me, things that were done within me, I could not, in clear conscience, say that I agree. That's why I left. So that is obviously not me. So why should I slander those? Because those are people that is their religion. That is who they are. They've embraced it. Why do I need to slander them to make me feel justified? See, when I become who I am, then I don't need to slander them because, again, when you stand in truth, you don't have to justify yourself. Mm-hmm. And standing in truth is knowing who you truly are, and where you're truly going. That culture, yes, that had my identity, that had my family, that had my friends, that had everything about me. But the truth is that wasn't me. I didn't belong. It's kind of, we talk about, there's ponds, and we all go into different ponds. Sometimes we are in a pond for a season. Sometimes we are born in that pond, but that pond doesn't define us. It's a choice. We get to say, this doesn't define who we are. But there's no need to slander this because the truth of it is, I am who I am because I was part of that culture. I learned from that culture. I am part of that. That's not a part that I'm ever going to regret. Because the truth is, it's who I am today. And it's part of my journey. It's part of my life. It's part of my story. But the thing is, my story didn't have to end there. But that's what happens. When I leave this culture, and I'm focused on constantly slandering and basically continue to bring out how wrong they are and how right I am, I'm stuck. They still own my story. They still own my story, and I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm not. And I might as well go back. I might as well go back because I'm not going anywhere. So this us and them is really why we need to have a them, is because we do not want to face ourselves. Mm-hmm. Facing ourselves is the most scariest thing, but it is also the most freeing thing when you truly face yourself.
Well, and one of the things when I hear you say, Nancy, go back to the first question, what is here? Also, in that first question, what am I feeling?
Yes.
It's also not only what is here, but what am I, again, you really talk about knowing who you are and willing to look at the secrets. And I think that's another part we'll talk in a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I think right now, and crucial of where we're at as a culture, we really don't know what we're feeling. We're going, and I think that's another reason we're not feeling good about ourselves. And one of the feelings that we always identify in emotional intelligence is shame.
Yes.
So exactly when you say there's an insecurity, well, shame, what we get from shame is wrongdoing. Mm-hmm. So there's a shame that we don't want to open that. That's one feeling we don't want to open up.
No. And then there's another one that is anger. And information of anger is I've been violated. And so what happens...
But you shouldn't be angry.
Well,
yeah, if you're angry, there's something wrong.
Oftentimes what happens when you're raised in a religious culture, to be angry is wrong. Mm-hmm. So anger is associated. Yes, anger is associated with shame, wrongdoing. So if I am feeling anger, I can't say I'm feeling violated. I can't say, because if I'm saying I'm feeling violated, then I'm wrong. I'm wrong. But what happens is we stay in this state, and it's kind of like we stay in this we can't move forward. We can't go back, but we can't move forward. And so we stay in this state where then what happens is our anger turns into bitterness. Mm-hmm. And bitterness, we always say, bitterness is drinking poison and expecting the others to die. Mm-hmm. That's bitterness. And so exactly what you said, to say what is here, one of the parts is to really say, embrace your feelings, your emotions. Your emotions are giving you information. Mm-hmm. And at that point in time, that is exactly what happened. At that point in time, I was starting to become bitter toward them. And see, that's the thing. Them was not at fault. They were doing things that to them is natural. They don't know any other way. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So but I was getting better. I was getting bitter at them. So I had a choice to either stay or leave. Mm-hmm. Because if I stayed, my bitterness would continue to grow, and it would continue to, and it's not gonna do anything to them. It's gonna consume me. Mm-hmm. And so, and it's kind of like we also talk about when we are leaving, when we're coming out of a betrayal. Every day that we stand and be bitter toward the other person is another day that person robs of us of moving forward into our future. Mm-hmm. So when we have this mentality of us versus them, it's not destructive to them. It's actually destructive to us, because we hold ourselves captive to something that we should not be holding ourselves captive to. Mm-hmm. We want to choose to stay here, and we're constantly blasting them. We're constantly, slandering them. We're constantly saying how wrong they are and how right I am. But the real truth is why we do that is because we want them to release us. Mm-hmm. They can't do that. Only you can release yourself. Mm-hmm. And how you do that is exactly embrace. So if I'm feeling shame, guilt, shame, wrongdoing, did I do something wrong? Did I do something wrong? And if I did, I forgive myself. Mm-hmm. I forgive myself and I move forward. The anger, I'm being violated. Why am I being violated? Well, because they continue to bring up that pain. So then guess what? I'm going to have to move away. I'm going to have to move. I'm not going to be around them, because not for their sake, but for my own sake. Mm-hmm. So it's really taking a look at ourselves and really looking at, okay, and then what is here? We identify what is here. But then here's the thing that's really important for us to truly be honest with ourselves. How did we get here? How did that happen?
What's our responsibility?
What is our responsibility in getting here?
Past
What
and
was
present
the choices
and future.
exactly? What was our thinking pattern that got us here? What was the choices that we made that got us here? What was our heart's desires that got us here? But that is really where the real empowerment comes, when I realize what got me here. So what is here? We first identify what is here. That's the feelings, the emotions, our it could be even our physical, okay? But then where we really become free is, wow, what got us here? How did we get here? Them did not put me here.
No.
I put myself here. So that is really where it comes to be totally really look at ourselves and again face that ugliness of who we are, because we're all capable. We're all capable of good and we're all capable of evil. We're all capable of beauty and we're all capable of ugliness. It really comes down to the choice of, who do I want to be? Do I want to be a villain or do I want to be a hero? That's my choice. I get to do that.
So let's talk a little bit about, Nancy, about the second one. How did I get here? What if there are circumstances in life that you're not responsible for? For instance, maybe a loss of a loved one or a tornado, that there's nothing you did that created that.
And that's a really good point to bring out, James, is okay. So let's just go with the fact of, okay, what is here? And here could be, how am I moving forward with the loss? I just lost my best friend. I just lost my spouse, my child. How am I going? Because we know very clearly moving forward from this point in time is never going to be the same, because that loved one is gone. So how am I going to move forward from here? Yes, the responsibility is, okay. Responsibility and fault are two different things. You're still responsible, and hear me out. You're still responsible to live your life. The loved one is gone. That's never going to leave you. The grief is never going to leave you. But you're still responsible to make a choice of how you're going to go on, or you can sit there for the rest of your life. That's also a choice. But you're still responsible for what is here. And not the fact, you didn't cause the death of a loved one, but what is here is you are now at a new chapter of your life. And how are you going to move forward? That is still what is here. Mm-hmm. How did I get here? Well, that's the thing. So if it's a loved one, okay, how did I get here? That's where the memories come. That's where you look at, okay, all these, what this person meant to you in your life, okay, and what you gave to this person, the relationships. That's how did I get here? Mm-hmm. But what is here is my life is never going to be the same.
Beautiful. Yep.
And I do have a responsibility to make a choice. And again, to not make a choice is to make a choice. How am I going to move forward? So it was really good for you to bring that up.
And then when I think of moving forward, a statement I've just been hearing recently is managing expectations. And sometimes I think we go through life believing that we're not going to lose our spouse, or we're not going to lose, things aren't going to happen. We have this expectation that life should work our way. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think it really comes on them. Well, we can have expectations on our circumstances, that we expect that if I do X, Y is going to happen. And
right.
Then it doesn't. If I have a relation with another person, I have expectation that they think the way I do. They're
right.
going to change. Mm-hmm. What happens is that, and when they don't, them is bad.
Exactly.
We don't have realistic expectations.
Well, I don't think it's okay. It's not the fact we don't have realistic expectations. It's the fact we shouldn't have those kind of expectations. Here's the thing. We need to stay in our lane. I cannot control you. I cannot control anyone else. I can control myself. I can change myself. You know the saying where it says you can lead a horse to the trough, but you can't make him drink? That's the same thing. But you have expectations when you bring this horse up. You have expectations. He or she is going to drink from the trough. You can't make a horse drink. That's the same thing with a person. So when you have unmet expectations, this is where you have to, again, look at yourself. What is here? I cannot change my spouse. I cannot change my children. I cannot change my parents or whatever. I can't change any of that. Okay, but I do have the point. I do have the power to change myself. So when I have expectations on a person that isn't getting met, and one of the good expectations would oftentimes be, and again, I'm just, throwing this out here, but one of the good expectations is oftentimes wives tend to expect their husbands to make them happy. Mm-hmm. And when the husband fails, then, oh my word, the wife is like, the husband doesn't love me, blah, 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 right?
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't know from a wife's perspective. But
well, I'm just saying that's one of the things. Yeah. The wife expects the husband to make her happy. Mm-hmm. The husband can't ever make the wife happy. Nobody can make you happy. Only you can make yourself happy. Because happiness is one of those things like cleanliness, right? Everyone defines what happiness is. Everyone defines what cleanliness is. What I say is clean and what you say is clean are two different things. That's the same thing with happiness. There is no box of, now you have happiness. We all define happiness in a different way.
Well,
we can't expect. So I'm putting the expectations of making me happy on my husband. That's not being met. So my husband is obviously a bad person. He doesn't like me. He doesn't. This is where I have to go again. What is here, and why am I? This is where I go inside. Why am I putting that expectation onto my husband? Why am I not choosing myself to be happy? What is keeping me from being happy? Because really, technically what I'm saying is something is keeping me, something is blocking me from being happy. And I'm expecting my husband to remove that. Well, you guys are dense.
Well, when I first...
I was wondering if you caught that.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch that
You're not going to say that. There you go.
Not even going there. I just want to back up a little bit. Because when I asked you the question, manage expectations, you looked at me like, that is not really what I'm saying. And what I mean by that, you don't like the managing expectations.
No.
And that's why I've told you heard a lot of managing expectations. But what you're real, because here's what happens when we go to the management expectations with the dense husband, so to speak. And then again, I just quoting what you said.
No, that's true.
Man, I'm still with you, man. We're not anyway. But here's the piece. So if you come from a perspective of managing expectations, well, he's not going to he's not going to do that. So I'm just going to have to lower my expectations for him. In other words, I expected him to do too much. I expected him not to be dense.
Well, you do two of those, but here's the thing.
But you're talking about more when you find out who you are. Because, again, we're kind of managing people again, right? It's them. They're responsible. What you said is they're responsible for my happiness. So if I manage the expectation, I just drop my level of happiness because he's not going to be able to do it.
Right. But then guess what happens? I start resenting him.
There you go.
And he needs to start sleeping with one eye open.
You don't like managing expectations.
There's no such thing as managing expectations.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about that because there's a lot of passion. When I said manage expectations, your eyes were not happy at all with that.
When we go into managing expectations, we bring people to performance. And I just had this conversation with my daughter the other day. We bring people into performance. Okay, so my daughter and I, we had the situation where my husband stepped in and was asking her, she was being disrespectful to me. And so he asked her, he said, do you love your mom or do you hate your mom? And she didn't answer the question. So later on, her and I were talking, and I asked her, so why did you not answer that question? And she said, Mom, that was a trap question. And I said, okay. And this is going into where you talk about managing expectations, right? So I said, okay, I said, help me understand this. I said, how is this a trap question? She said, well, if I say that I love you, then you're going to tell me, okay, if you love me, why do you disrespect me? And I said, okay, first of all, you judged me. Second of all, I said, let's stop right there. What you're doing, and this is what managing expectations does. I said, what you're doing is you're taking love and equating it to performance, which is a lie. Just because you disrespected me does not mean you don't love me. That would be the expectations. When you put the expectations with that, you're lowering your expectations. It's going into performance, which then we take love and performance and we put it together, which is a lie. That's not all what love is. Love is not performance. We are not about meeting each other's expectations. We are about accepting each other. We are about accepting each other for who we are, and then throwing love onto people so that they grow, so that they bloom. We are not about performance. So when my daughter says, when she's disrespecting me at that point in time, if I feel that she doesn't love me, then I have a problem. She doesn't. I do. Mm-hmm. Because I'm saying her in order for her to love me is a performance. Mm-hmm. That's expectation. Mm-hmm. Love is not an expectation. Love is not a performance. Love is a being. It is truly accepting the other person for who they are. Flaws and all. That's what love is.
It's a choice.
It's a choice. Exactly. It's not a performance.
It's an act of your will. Right?
It's an act of the will. That's exactly what it is. It's an act of the will. And when we love someone or we love something, we pour into it in order for it to grow, in order for the best of it. And so that's the thing, okay? For her to be disrespectful is not becoming of her. So it's kind of asking, what exactly is the core of this? Where are you feeling disrespected? That's why you're disrespecting me. So that's why I'm saying the expectations, I don't get into that at all. Because when we put expectations on people, we're actually putting performance on them. And then it basically means that if I don't perform to your level, then you're going to throw me out. Well, you never cared about me in the beginning. That's the thing. You never cared about me in the beginning. Because to really care about someone, you don't just throw them out because they're not meeting your expectations. You have to look at yourself and say, what do you expect from yourself? We hold ourselves personal responsible and personal accountable. We don't give other people that authority.
So as we focus on ourselves, we don't use expectations. We know who we are, and we release the others around us. Because there's a part, if we're managing expectations, then we're also managing ourselves, and we don't meet there's a part where we don't even meet our own expectations.
Well, the truth is you don't. That's why you project your expectations onto others. Because you need others to be somebody that you're not. So. You want to be, but you can't be because you're choosing not to be. So you throw it over to other people. Again, goes back to the husband making the wife happy. Yeah. She can't make herself happy, so she projects it onto her husband and expects him to make. How can he make you happy if you can't make yourself happy? Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying.
And then a really great relationship, as you do those two steps moving forward, isn't managing expectation. It's communicating who you are.
It's not just communicating, but really living. Yeah. It's living who you are.
Yeah. You're living who you are.
You're living who you are.
And then out of that, you can communicate who you are.
Out of that, you find others reciprocating.
I just like telling people who I am.
No, I know. I get that.
You see,
when you live who you are, others are going to reciprocate who they are.
And the reason why I like it, yeah, exactly. But the reason why I like it, because we all talked a number of times on other podcasts, the billboard.
Yes.
There's something when you know who you are. You want to put who you are on the billboard.
Well, exactly, because it takes away everyone else's power.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm saying who I am.
You define who you are.
Exactly.
And nobody, and we said that earlier today, then nobody can define who you are.
No.
But it's not, you just don't do it for that motivation. The more you realize and go who you are and you see how fearfully and wonderfully you're made, you're going to want to put that on the billboard. And if it's not pride and look how better I am than you, but it's my individuality. What you talk about, it's my individuality. We're different, and that's a good thing.
We're unique.
Here's
the thing of what works in that.
Yes.
Okay, when I know who I am, and I know my gift sets and my talents, I am basically fulfilled. So as a fulfilled person, I can now look across and I can see you and your gift sets.
Oh, isn't that great?
I don't look at your faults. I look at your gift sets. We are meant to thrive. So when I'm looking across, when I am fulfilled, I can look across the table and I can see your gift sets and I can call those out. So we tend to look, as humans, we tend to look at our own faults, right? But if you have someone who comes along and says, wow, you really have this gift set, you need to pour into that. When you really have other people speaking into you, that's speaking life over you. When you have other people speaking into you, you're going to start seeing your own talents and you're going to start pouring into that. And it's a ripple effect. Because now you're starting to become fulfilled. You're not going to look over here at this person and see all the negative over there, because you're going to start seeing that talents. And that's really what happens is we start calling out the positive of people. We start calling out the talents of people. We start calling out who they truly are, not their faults, not the expectations that they're not meeting. We start calling out who they are. We no longer have those expectations of our needs. We have the expectations. Now our expectations change. We don't need to manage. The expectations just be you. Everyone else is taken. That's it.
And I really experienced that the last couple of weeks is I really accept who I am. And then I'm able to sit and listen across the table from someone else and actually see and encourage them and call forth them and giving advice, whatever that is, to call forth what's best for them. Not that they need to be here or this, but you can actually sit across the table and see where they're at. Because when you know where you're at, and that's what we talk about empathy, you're able to then look across, because you don't have your lens of insecurity.
Yeah.
I'm able to sit across the table from you, and I'm able to see who is that person I'm sitting across the table from. And I don't have my lens of insecurity. And that's what you talked about earlier. When we sit around the table, we start brainstorming. We start calling each other out. Imagine the type of team and what that does for an organization.
True statement. Because we now know we're not setting, what does that do for an organization? It eliminates the managing of people aspect. It eliminates that part, because we are not going to be setting up our employees for failure. We're going to we're going to plug them in where their talents truly are so that they can thrive.
Not because we need them in this position. Because we can't do it, so we got to have that. No,
it's because that is where their natural gift is. That is where they thrive, and it really comes. It creates an atmosphere that you want to come to work. You want to be part of this because you are thriving. People in general do not like to fail. We don't like to fail.
No.
So when we are set up, where we are plugged in, because exactly what you talked about, as the boss needs this job filled because they can't do it. They're going to be focusing on the need of the job. They're going to put someone in there that may not be qualified for that. That may not be their talent. So you're setting that person up.
We're throwing stuff against the wall instead, and what ends up people, because instead of looking at the position and saying what needs to change about the position.
That exactly,
what
but also
change?
And that's where you don't look at the position and what needs to change at the position, because the position's there. You as the boss have to look at yourself. I need to change because I need this. I need this position filled. I can't do this position. I need this position filled. Well, if I don't know who I am as a boss, I'm sure not going to be looking for the person to qualify with here. I'm only going to be looking at the position and it needs to be filled. My urgency, my expectation. If I know as a boss who I am and what kind of talents do I bring, I am going to be able to be more specific of what exactly do I need for this position. The position doesn't change. It's the qualifications for the position. And it all only I as a boss can change that. And so I'm going to change. And this is where the hard work comes in, because oftentimes when we are in a production and we have production needs to keep going and we may be short staffed, we are just thinking of getting things out the door or just getting the production. We are not thinking of setting our employees up for success. And guess what? We are constantly behind the 8 ball. We are constantly behind the 8 ball. We are constantly having employee turnover, which is very costly, but we're also constantly having a shortage, and we become very exhausted and we say, it's the economy. No, it's not the economy. It's you. It's you. You do not have an actual idea of who you are as a business owner. You also don't have an actual idea of what the business is. I mean, you may know what you're producing, but what's your vision? What's your mission statement? If you don't have that idea, you're just going to continue to plug that in, and it's constantly going to be plugged in. It's going to be a revolving door until you say, I can stop this, because the economy it's not the economy. It's the mindset.
And I think it really comes down to, instead of looking for a position, when you know who you are, you're offering them an opportunity. It's not a position.
There you go. There you go.
You then say, I value this position, but it's an opportunity.
It's an opportunity.
I'm not looking to throw. Matter of fact, if I don't find anybody, that's fine. But I have an opportunity, and it goes back to what you said in the beginning of a church, of a religious organization. You looked at there was an opportunity. There was an opportunity.
No,
they weren't bad people.
No,
but you had the freedom to choose that there was an opportunity for you to grow and thrive, and be who you are.
Exactly.
Doesn't mean that there's somebody else can't go there.
No.
But it wasn't, instead of...
It wasn't for me.
Go back to them. They're them not bad.
No.
It just was an opportunity for Nancy to be who God created her to be, fearfully and wonderfully, in that organization or religion.
There you go.
So it's not them and being bad.
No.
It's, again, we focus on ourselves. So you made a choice to leave that religious community. I did. Not because them is bad.
No.
But I can't grow in that. No. That's not my lane.
I was going to become somebody I'm not. And like I said earlier, I was on the path of becoming very bitter. I'm not a bitter person. Yeah. That's not who I am. And so again, bitterness is drinking poison expecting them to die. Well, them wasn't going to die.
No.
I was. Yeah. I had to make the choice to leave because I was going to die. It was my choice.
And you made it based on opportunity.
Exactly.
Based on your choice, not them performing or not performing. No. Not based on you performing or not performing.
No.
That is, and I think we do another podcast. There's a lot on this. I'd like to do another one as we continue to go this direction. Go ahead. You're looking at me.
Well, no, I would agree with you on that, because the truth of it is what happens then when you make that it's very empowering. When you make that choice, you also know that you're going to have consequences. Every choice has consequences.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the thing, okay? Good or bad, every choice you make has consequences. But that's the empowerment of making that choice. I knew very clearly there was going to be consequences. I knew that. Did it mean that it wasn't painful? No, it did not make that. But I knew very clearly leaving that it's going to be consequences. But it's very empowering of saying, I chose those consequences versus them gave me those consequences. Them didn't give me those consequences. I chose them because of the decision I made to leave.
And that's why I like to talk a little bit more of what the hard work is in our next podcast. Because one of the things I'm saying in our videos and our promo videos, so to speak, for Orange Road Services, this is hard work.
It is extremely hard work.
This is not, okay, here's your yacht and you're going to get all this. And, this is to go this path with not managing expectations.
The word really is intentional. Okay, here's the thing. It is really being intentional on your thinking pattern. It is really, it's discipline comes into, it's hard, it's discipline as well. Discipline comes into it, but it really is intentional on your thought pattern. It really is intentional on your choices, that you make choices every day. Again, to not make a choice is to make a choice.
Yes.
So you're making choices all the time, and you are where you are because you chose to be there. Again, with or without your permission, you chose to be there.
Yeah.
So taking your power and taking your freedom and living a free life where them doesn't have power over you is the hard work.
It's hard work.
Because you have to look inside yourself, and you have to be truthful with yourself, very honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And you have to embrace, okay, we all pick up habits that are horrible or thought patterns that are horrible. And knowing that we're all capable of being a villain or a hero. We're all capable of that. Understanding that. And there's this one saying of basically saying that we are more, it's something about we are more terrified of the light than we are of the darkness, because we are more terrified of how powerful we really can be.
And the light also illuminates
who we are.
And that's the other hard part. Sometimes shame, again, one of the feelings we talk about, shame. You don't want to look at that really bad and ugly.
No.
It's so shameful.
It is. It's really hard to break through. Shame is probably one of the greatest emotions that is really hard to break through, because exactly what you said, it's shameful, which means wrongdoing. It's really hard for us to say, I am wrong.
And you know that from personal experience, because religion is one of their byproducts.
That is really what keeps you in. Shame. If it wasn't for shame and fear is what keeps you into the religion. Yeah. And if it wasn't for those two, you wouldn't be in there. Exactly. But that's how they hold you captive. Shame, you're doing wrong, and fear that you're condemned because you're doing wrong. Yeah. So it's a vicious cycle.
And in outside of the religious community, failure, again, it's all performance-based. Mm-hmm. We have if you don't perform and you fail, you need to fix it. Instead of what we look at our Orange Rose Services, failure is an opportunity for you to find out who you are.
It is.
But we have not been trained that way. Mm-mm. Our conventional thinking says you're bad. You're a bad person.
Yeah.
And then what do? We project it on, at least there's somebody else who's not as bad as I am.
That's exactly true. When it really comes down to the fact what we talked about earlier, the ponds, you're not meant to be in that pond. That pond is not meant to be in. In order for you to be truly who you are, you need to make the decision to leave that pond and go to where you need to go. In order to do that, you need to know who you are.
And one of the things we talked a lot about is do we call it a cliche? Go in, go out.
Mm-hmm.
Our cliche.
Our tagline.
I'm sorry. There it is.
Yes, it's our tagline.
Excuse me. Our tagline: go in, go out, and then we also talk about go live. And we touched a little bit on that. And the go live is legacy. There's a lot in the go live.
There is.
But we talked a lot about when you go in, how then you can go out in that board meeting room and that around the table with you and your team.
The ripple effect.
Man,
yeah.
That's good. But then we haven't even touched on
the go live. Exactly.
And we will be doing that. But what be next podcast? But what we do first is talk about a lot of the pain why we don't go live.
The consequences. We're going to talk about the consequences of the choices. That's why oftentimes we don't want to make choices, because and that's why we're expecting them to release us, because we don't want to make that we don't want the consequences of the choices we made. We cannot. It's part of life. You can never escape, good or bad. Every choice you make, there's a consequence,
right.
Good or bad, and we can never escape the consequences. So it's really learning to live. I made this choice, and these are the consequences, and how am I going to live with those consequences?
And how do we go through it?
And how do we go through it? Yes.
Yes, because we can spend more time fretting about the consequences instead of saying, you know what? So I need to change.
Exactly.
And it's not going to be pleasant.
No.
But again, one of my favorite mottos is failure is easy on the front end. Failure is easy on the front end, hard on the back end. Success is hard on the front end, easy on the back end. Mm-hmm. But we spend a lot of time on the front end in bypassing it.
We do.
Least pass resistance is failure.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about the failure where you make mistakes. We're talking about not facing and just trying to escape. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yes.
OrangeRoseServices.com.